Welcome to Rev Up Your Potential with Hilda Gann, the podcast where entrepreneurs, business leaders, and HR professionals share tips, strategies, and trends in their area of expertise. They also talk about their successes and struggles along their career and business journey. If you love to learn through storytelling and find people fascinating, join us. Hilda Gann, welcome to another episode of Rev Up Your Potential. My guest today is Trish Tonaj. She is an award-winning marketing consultant who's also an artist, author, and founder of ShareYourStories.online. Her company's name is Phase 2 Inc. This is an amazing woman who has an eclectic set of activities that have created this wonderful journey. And she's at a stage of her life where she wants to give back. And she'll share that with you. And she has also started a phase of her life where she's an artist. And I noticed today that the art behind her is new for me, and she can talk about that later. She is the author of 2 books. One is called Breaking Barriers. And this is 10 entrepreneurial women sharing their stories. And a second book called A Diary of Change, 12 Personal Tools. Welcome, Trish.
Thank you so much, Hilda, for inviting me. I'm really looking forward to meeting and connecting with your audience.
Well, I am looking forward to sharing your experience and your journey. So maybe you can start by telling us a little bit about your previous career, corporate, before you took the plunge to be an entrepreneur.
Sure. So like many folks, I was in the corporate world in what would be now considered senior level management positions. And one was a national buyer for Eaton's. I don't know if you remember that department store chain. And the second,
I grew up on that Christmas time. We used to go downtown
and see the Christmas decorations. That's right.
Yes.
And the second was a retail consultant for an international company, De Beers, a diamond mining company. But I was of that generation where you were sort of last in and first out. So that was the turbulent time when, we were finding lots of folks were getting these amazing jobs in the corporations, but we were finding that we were having to search out new opportunities because there was lots of downsizing happening. So in 1993, I took the bull by the horns and I said, okay, I'm going to take the jump into entrepreneurship. And I started my first company.
Now, what made you feel you were ready to take that jump? People say they take that jump, but what prompted that move?
I must say that working for the Eaton family, it was a wonderful opportunity. When you talk to folks that you meet along the way in your journey, I didn't really realize the strength and support that they gave us to actually be entrepreneurial while working under their organization. So, at a very young age, I had millions of dollars that I was responsible for. I had 220 stores across the country to buy merchandise for. And the Eaton company really did give us the freedom to choose those product assortments, who we were going to buy from. And it was really a wonderful experience, in addition to being able to meet with the Eaton family quarterly and actually do a presentation on what we were doing in our individual departments. So that really gave me the confidence to say, I've been doing this for, almost 10 years for someone else. Maybe I can do it for myself. So the first business that I started was a marketing and communications company and branding, actually. So anything that you would put your corporate logo on. Some folks call it used to be called the promotional products industry, but now we would translate that into a branding company.
That's cool. And I love how you say they actually helped your confidence in being an entrepreneur. What a great opportunity. Sometimes we don't realize what companies do for us, and sometimes we do realize, and maybe those are the negative things. So when you started your company, what would you say are some of the struggles and successes along the way? And you're obviously not a first-time entrepreneur, you're a serial. No. So I don't care what order you want to do that, but share some give us a highlight of the different companies and then some successes and some struggles along that way, this
Well, I've
journey.
been an entrepreneur now for over 30 years. So there's been lots of successes and lots of struggles, obviously, because as we all know, the entrepreneurial journey is very fluid. It's not a straight line, there's lots of zigs and zags. I would have to say that probably my experience is no different than many other people. My company was self financed because I couldn't get any financing from the bank. So that's a
Mhm.
pretty standard response, especially for women. The other thing that happened was I actually changed direction in my companies based on my customer. So it would be my customer that was saying, Trish, we're really looking for this and we can't find it anywhere. And I would, of course, being the person that always wanted to help, well, I'll figure it out. And so the dynamics of my company changed throughout the years. And then I started as a sole proprietorship and then, of course, eventually incorporated. And when I incorporated my company in 1997, the dynamics and the flavor of things kind of changed. You hired some employees. You looked at product innovation a little bit differently. So I think that the one thing that I must say that I've had to learn over the years is that for every failure, there's a success.
Seek it as an opportunity, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because it's
absolutely.
interesting. There's Chinese, they don't have an alphabet, so they do characters. And the character for, danger is actually opportunity and crisis.
Right.
Like, you're like, "Wow, okay,"
Yeah.
from crisis comes opportunity. So
Yeah.
kudos.
And I think that was a really hard lesson to learn because as an entrepreneur, we're driven by success, right? We're driven by the next sale.
Mhm.
And I was an entrepreneur at a time where all my contemporaries were staying at home and having families. And I was out there beating the pavement looking for the next sale. So learning that a failure was going to lead to a success actually made it a little easier and actually made you take more of a risk because then you sort of said, okay, well, I'm going to give this a try. And what's the worst that can happen? I'll try something else.
But that's an attitude that some people don't
Sure.
have, right? Like, where did you always have that? Or was the experience from Eaton's giving you that? Because most people will say, "Oh my God, a failure is a failure, and I can't share that with anybody because I'm so ashamed," right? They
That's
they
true.
don't
That's
say
very
a
true.
failure is an opportunity for something new, something different.
Right.
And when did that light bulb moment happen for you?
I would have to say that if you were to talk to my parents, my mother would say that as the firstborn child and a girl, I always had this I can do anything attitude, even from a very young age. And so I think it was something that was nurtured in my home.
Nice,
Where my
nice.
parents really gave me, talk about my artwork. I was actually doing artwork on the front window of my parents' home at the age of 4 and 5. Doing these wonderful snowman scenes or Easter bunny scenes, and they were very, very supportive and gave me the feeling that I could really do anything I wanted to do, that the world was really my opportunity and whatever I had in life was going to be something that I was going to be able to do on my own.
Well, that's so great that you had parents that do that, because I think too often our parents think they mean well by giving us something they think will give you a good life because it's secure, and
Right.
it's not your passion.
Right.
So let's talk about passion, because
Thank you.
behind you is a beautiful, stunning
Thank
picture with
you. Thank
water
you.
rising up. It just energizes me just to see that. Uh,
Thank you.
and I know that art was not part of your
Mhm.
career path,
Mhm.
talking about your corporate world and your entrepreneur. Let's
Right.
talk about that aspect of your life right now.
Sure. So I've actually been an artist, as I mentioned, since a very young age. And I took all kinds of courses, while I was in high school and going through university and always looking for, I did everything from photography to watercolor to, clay, throwing clay and oil painting. And now here I am with acrylics. And actually what gave me the light bulb moment to sort of pursue what I really want to do and the passion that I have for art actually happened during the pandemic. So I decided that I have been an entrepreneurial coach and a business consultant for a number of years. And of course, the dynamics of life changed.
Mhm.
I'm sure as for you, right? We all started to sort of sit back and say, okay, so what do you want the next 20 years to look like? And I just decided that I really wanted to pursue my passion for art. So I sort of have two things that I've been passionate about my whole life: fashion and art. So fashion in the way that you sort of present yourself, because that's sort of the package that I just love everything about fashion. And then I thought, there's a wonderful connection between the collector, the canvas, and the artist. And I've been a collector in my life, collecting various different artists. And I love going to local galleries. I've been doing that my whole life. And I just thought, now's the time for me to give it a try and see what happens. So I had my first solo show at a relay chateau, which is Langdon Hall in Cambridge. And I've had some wonderful exposure from there. And I'm actually really pleased to say I have pieces now in Europe, the United States, and Canada.
That is so cool. My cheeks are tingling just hearing about your experience. And I love that you shared this passion that has always been there, but it
Mhm.
hasn't been, like a priority passion. And like so many others during COVID, we are now like reflecting on what do I love to do? Where do I want to go? And, being the HR professional and having clients in companies and organizations, it is like I started doing webinars like a week after COVID. I woke up the first day I recognized, okay, only essential services. So I figured out what I'm going to do for the next, I thought it was only going to be a couple months. Uh, and then I woke up the next morning and said, wait a minute, these people don't know very much about HR. And now they're going to think about layoffs and how do they keep their place safe and the client relationship as a result. I thought, there's a job for us. And I told my team, I said, we're going to do webinars. And we did 2 webinars a week for 5 weeks. And then once a week, and then finally twice a week, because by summer I was getting exhausted. We did 30 webinars between
You.
February or March and December to help people thinking about topics that would be beneficial to them for their organization, for their companies, and for their staff. And so it was an amazing journey. And what I predicted early on was you really should treat people well. Build your culture. If you've not had a good culture, fix it. And I predicted that people would leave because of crappy culture. I never predicted we'd be so long that we would have time to gaze and think and then decide, I don't really like this industry. I don't like
Right.
this organization, and decide to go. So I love that you embraced your art and this beautiful stuff that you have. So,
Thank
I mean,
you.
the last time we talked, it was something different. I said, this looks different than the last time. So I love it.
That's true.
Now, we've kind of fast forwarded from some of your entrepreneurial businesses. If you want to highlight those a bit more, and now you're talking about next career,
Mhm.
that kind of giving back. So, can you kind of briefly bring us up to date to where you are in the business side of your life? This is business too, but it's pleasure
It is.
business.
It is. The interesting thing is, one of the things that, we all have those light bulb moments or aha moments or pivotal moments where something changes in life.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I will share with you that I was very fortunate in 2015 to attend a um, course in executive education at Harvard Law School in mediation and dispute resolution. And I was doing that course. My objective was to take that course because I wanted to differentiate myself as a business consultant and a coach.
Hmm.
And what ended up happening as a result of taking that course is totally unforeseen. So I ended up coming back from that experience and writing the book, Breaking Barriers 10 Entrepreneurial Women Share Their Stories, which focuses really all about mentorship. And then becoming a speaker about the topic of mentorship. and then becoming the founder and host of ShareYourStories.online, where I feature entrepreneurial stories. And, I'm really pleased to say that we have now almost 300 international stories featured.
Wow.
Like you, I have a podcast series. So I think we're up to over 100 podcasts for sure. And of course, the audio files on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music. And that's really my passion project. So that's my give back to the entrepreneurial community because, I think I can remember way back when in 1993, when I started my first business, and I say this quite often when I'm speaking, there was only traditional media. There was only radio, newspaper, TV. I mean, who could afford to do any of that when you were an entrepreneur?
No.
So I think if anyone had offered me an opportunity to share my story on a platform, talk a little bit about me as a person as well as my business, I seriously would have jumped over the desk and kissed them right on the mouth. Whether it was a man or a woman, it wouldn't have mattered because I was just so gung ho to get out there
Yeah,
that I would
yeah.
have taken any opportunity available. And I really thought about that because I was meeting so many fantastic entrepreneurs who had some great stories. And I thought, oh, geez, you can't keep writing books because, we both know how much time and effort it goes into the written word. So I started the guest blog series. And in the first year, we shared 100 stories. And then I thought, okay, we have to add some personality to this. So that's when
Yeah.
we started the video podcast as well. So that really is my sort of give back to the entrepreneurial community. And like you, I love meeting these people who have these great stories about starting businesses. I think it energizes all of us, to be quite honest.
Personally, this is why I started this podcast because there's so many interesting people.
Mhm.
Even the people you don't know are interesting or not, they are interesting.
They are.
I have this concept called Rev Up, and it's an acronym, and the U stands for uniqueness. And I think all of us have these interesting stories, and we
Yeah,
peel back the layers. It's like this iceberg exercise that we talk about people, but when you see what you see, but what's beneath
that's
is
right.
so much richer, and we
That's
all
right.
have this richness in us. So yeah, like when I hear share your stories, I'm excited. And then it makes me even more excited about my Rev Up Your Potential because I love to bring on people to help people think about, hey, I can do that. Or,
That's right.
oh, that happened to me. And so, yeah, like, and sometimes we're so embarrassed, like
Mhm.
when we don't succeed, we feel that we have to hide that. We
Right.
can't share that. But when we realize we're not alone, then it's
Mhm.
not so bad after all, right?
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, yeah. So that pivotal moment for you,
Mhm.
did you were some of the people in the book
Mhm.
from there?
No, actually.
Okay,
So
no,
there
that's
were
cause curious because I thought, oh, you
yeah.
might have met these people and decided to do
No,
that.
there were 47 other people from around the world that took this course and literally from like countries all around the world. And I think what energized me into writing the book on mentorship was because we of course started sharing stories, right? Like why are
Mhm,
you at
mhm.
Harvard?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
what's happened in your career that you've decided to take this particular course to help you out? And it was hearing all of their stories that actually energized me into thinking, there's something to this whole idea about mentorship. And I think that it's an untapped resource, to be quite honest. And I think it's something that we can all participate in, whether we're the mentor or the mentee, because we all have education and things that we know that we would like to share. And I don't think age is a barrier because to be quite honest, I mean, I look to younger people to mentor me in technology
Mhm,
because I'm
mhm.
not very good at it. It wasn't something that I grew up with. So, and yet in the same token, I can help them out with perhaps some marketing and business tools that they don't have the experience with yet. So that's the one thing I really love about the idea of mentorship. And so I actually approached, funnily enough, quite a few women before I actually got to the number 10. And what was really remarkable was that when I came back from the course, made the decision to write the book, I had found the 10 women that were going to share their story. We wrote the book, we found a publisher, and we were actually published in 1 year.
Amazing and
Yeah.
impressive. Wow,
So I guess
wow.
that just meant it was meant to be, right? because everything aligned together and it just worked beautifully.
I love that you're at a stage where you're paying it forward, right? And
Right.
you're gifting. That's the part of gratitude. Some of the guests that I always look when I look for guests, I look at their careers, but I also look at them and their beliefs. Where is their sense of community?
Mhm.
Where is their sense of philanthropy? Are they giving for a cause or for a personal reason? When my husband and I had our company, we got to a stage where we were successful enough and we said, okay, now we want to give back to the community. And the
Right.
community was our engineering community, professional community, and the community was our geographical community as well, right?
Right.
So I always love people who give and gift of themselves. Because I'm in the HR field, I like to ask my guests a little bit about HR. So, what kind of experience do you have in that HR area? What are some of those headaches that you might have experienced either now or in the past?
Well, that's a really interesting question because my degree is actually in labor relations. So, reading a lot of case studies on employee employer conflict was how I actually got my degree. But in my own company, I think the biggest challenge that I had, because I really am a big picture thinker. So,
Hmm.
I'm an innovator and I really do have a vision of where I want to go and how I want to get there. So I think the biggest challenge for me was trying to find people that would align with my vision and could see the opportunities. Because sometimes when we're so, creative, some people don't align with that same sort of thought process.
Hmm.
Most people are process driven. I mean, let's face it, everything that we do in business is process driven. Sales is process driven. You and I talking on this particular platform, there's a process we have to follow.
Yeah.
So sometimes our creativity gets in the way of the process. So I think that was really the biggest hurdle for me, was trying to be able to articulate my vision to a team who could then prioritize and process to an opportunity so that we could be successful.
And have you been s- successful in finding that?
I think, you know what? I really do believe that everything happens in life for a reason. And we meet people along the way who help us to get to where we would like to go. And I was very blessed to have met some really amazing people along my journey that worked for me for a period of time. I can honestly say that now as an artist, I'm a solopreneur. So, sometimes I say to my friends and family, I have the smartest plants in the neighborhood because I talk to them all the time. I don't have anyone to communicate with anymore but myself. So, sometimes you do a lot of talking. And I love to talk and I love to meet people. So,
I
um,
can feel that.
I would have
Yeah.
I would have to say that now my biggest hurdle is making the connection with the collector or the customer, because it's a totally
Yes.
different
Yeah.
customer,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Hmm.
And it's an emotional connection. People buy art because the canvas speaks to them. There is some sort of an emotional connection that they have or feel when they see a piece of art. And so that sometimes can take a very long time to make that connection. And other times it happens quite quickly.
Right. Yeah. Do you ever feel you're on display? When you put something on canvas, you're
Hmm.
sharing your story, a part
Hmm.
of your life.
Hmm.
And some people will say, "Oh, that's great," or some people go, "What is that?" Right?
Right.
It's almost like you almost need a veneer or a sense of confidence to be able to really open your your life out there in terms of your artwork.
That's very true. And, I think maybe that's why it's taken me to this point to pursue the art, because in my younger days I maybe would not have had that resilience to be able to take the criticism that may come your way with something that's so personal.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
for myself, I've had two inspirational mentors, actually three, that are all women. One would be Coco Chanel, because going back to I absolutely love her story, her rag to riches story. I mean, who doesn't love those kinds of stories, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And the other two are artists, so Georgia O'Keeffe and Emily Carr. And, unfortunately, I would have loved to have been able, sometimes people ask if you were ever able to sit somewhere and have a conversation with
Yeah,
someone,
yeah,
who would you like to sit and talk to? One of those three women, I think, would have been an absolutely amazing experience because they all had different stories that were similar and yet different. And I think just hearing about how they overcame the obstacles and they broke the barriers to their own success
yeah.
would be really energizing.
I mean, I hear the thread of women and women entrepreneurs and supporting in your life, and when I was probably a teenager, I guess, I read this book on Jenny Churchill, and Jenny Churchill was Winston Churchill's mother. And when I read her book, I mean, she did so much. She wasn't your typical, I married, an earl or whatever the royalty was. I married this person, so I'm expected to do, that
Right.
kind of role. She started a magazine for women. She had a whole bunch of men and women who really respected her and sought her advice. And I thought, wow, this is a woman who's a power in a pioneer way in a time when it is a man's world.
Yeah.
And so I really admired her. And when you said Coco Chanel, I agree with that. For Georgia O'Keeffe, I've seen her plates. I have seen them live, and
Isn't her work amazing?
well, yeah, but it's also there's a theme to it. For those who don't know, I'm not going to share, but I remember going with this friend who was a male, and he couldn't really look at those plates. He just couldn't look at those plates.
But what a
So
powerhouse she was to
well,
take the risk,
she
right?
was, she was a woman. Like, I love these women who really raise the bar, who do
Right.
not feel they are being held back.
Right.
um, there's a movement called I Am Remarkable. It's a Google initiative. And what it's doing is helping women and underrepresented people, so LGBTQ, racial minorities, or whatever, feel confident in self promoting their achievements. And it's a volunteer thing. I just signed up to be a facilitator. I am looking forward to helping empower people to feel good about self promotion, to recognize their accomplishments. And this is why I wanted you on my show, Trish, because that's what you do. That's what you're
Well,
helping to do.
maybe we can collaborate and you can get those young women that you're going to be mentoring to share their story on our platform because as my passion project, it's a wonderful opportunity to increase your visibility and collaborate with other entrepreneurs and to build connections in your community. So we even do quarterly networking events. And I can honestly say at our last event, we had 12 countries represented in our
Wow.
networking event. So
Wow. Well,
we just get together and we share real life
yeah. Well,
experience. And I think
I know
that's
I
really
want to keep
important.
getting involved in what you do and where you're going.
Thank
Um,
you.
if you were to give a piece of advice to younger people or even older people doing whatever they want to, what would that piece of advice be?
I would have to say, just keep going. That you've got, I say, use this phrase. Every entrepreneur remembers the days when they started in the trenches with a great idea. So everything starts with a great idea. And there's always going to be obstacles along the way. And you're going to sit back and go, oh, geez, do I really want to do this? Is this really for me? Maybe I should do something else.
Yeah.
But if you can just keep going, usually, I think there's a statistic that says that 90% of the people will quit an entrepreneurial venture just at the tipping point of success, right? So you don't want to be that person. You've got this great idea. Celebrate your great idea and make it happen. So I think it would be just keep going.
Just keep going. Well, thank you for helping us to think about those days when we feel like giving up. Just
Mhm.
keep going.
Yeah.
Just keep going. Your legacy, what would that be when you decide that, okay, this isn't, I'm going to do something totally different now, but I want my legacy to have been this? What would that be?
Well, in 2010, I created a quote that I started using on social media, and it is be the person who starts a ripple that creates a wave of change. And I think that that quote is as important now as it was at the time that I wrote it. And I really think if we can all make a contribution to our communities that change it for the better, that's really what I would like my legacy to be, to empower other people to really follow their dreams, to just keep going and really find the thing that really makes them happy and contributes to their community.
That is such a beautiful thought, and
Thank
I
you.
keep looking at this ripple in the background. It's got a big explosive change, and I think that's you.
Thank
That
you.
is you. You
Thank you.
you have touched so many lives, and you are continuing to do that. I applaud your healthy attitude towards change, risk. I enjoying your artwork, and I'll have to you'll have to tell me when your next art gallery show is, because I
For
will be
sure.
there. My brother's an artist, and he had a show in Boston one time, and it was on ballet, and ballet's my passion. So I said, okay, I don't care what's the family's doing. I'm coming down that weekend to be with
Perfect.
you. And I remember hanging the pictures with him and being there with him. So it was a joy. So I am looking forward to your show in the drivable region. for
Yes, for sure.
for
For sure.
for
I will
sure.
certainly do that. Thank you.
What's your next endeavor? Share with us what's happening next.
Well, I think for the next year, to be quite honest, I'm in the planning stage right now. So, getting the visibility as an artist is a whole new experience for me. So, I'm planning out whether I'm going to combine live venues as well as online venues. And one of the other things that I've done is I'm doing workshops with people called Color Outside the Lines and giving everyone an opportunity to explore their creativity. And so we've had a number of those in recent months that have been super fun. And so I'm hoping to continue with those workshops in the next year, and they'll be with corporations and as well as individuals. So that's going to be my focus probably for the next little while. In addition to continuing to share the stories on ShareYourStories.online, and who knows, maybe when things open up and we start doing speaking again, I'll have an opportunity to get back out there and start talking about mentorship and sharing some of the stories that are on our platform to help other people to enjoy their great ideas.
Great. And so how do people get a hold of you? I know you said
Mhm.
ShareYourStoriesOnline.com, but how
So the website is ShareYourStories.online.
mhm.
And for that, we welcome any business stories because we love to share a little bit about the person behind the logo. So I'm going to challenge you, Hilda, with making sure that you get your story on our platform as well.
That's on my to-do list, because
Yes.
of our thing today. I thought, oh yeah, I got to do that.
And then in terms of my artwork, it's pretty easy. It's just my name, TrishTonaj.com. And there's an e-boutique there. So I invite anyone to join me and have a look at the artwork, and of course all throughout social media. So I tag folks like yourself when we share their stories just to expand our reach. So we try to make it pretty easy for people to participate.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing your journey, your success stories, and your positive attitude and desire
Thank
to
you.
help others. I just enjoyed having this conversation with you. Thanks again.
Thank you.
And for those of you who have listened to Trish, give it a thumbs up, subscribe. If you love hearing about people and their stories and successes, struggles along the way, follow us. Thank you for joining us, and have a great day. Thank you for tuning in to Rev Up Your Potential with Hilda Gann. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our podcast on YouTube and Spotify to stay up to date on our latest episodes. For HR tips, news, and strategies, or if you're interested in being a guest on our podcast, visit our website at peoplebrightconsulting.com.